Hello, people. Welcome to another episode of the Fair One podcast, formerly known as Grage TV. We're here to discuss the fights, I guess, we started a little bit earlier, just couldn't help myself. I guess we're here to discuss this weekend's fights. There's a whole bunch of fights on that card that are interesting. Obviously, we're going to talk first and foremost and most importantly about the Dustin Poirier Conor McGregor fight. But I think over the course of the show, we're going to talk a lot about that fight. We'll probably be coming back to it. The sleeper for that one I want to watch is Carlos Condit versus Max Griffin. I think that Max Griffin hasn't really come into his own yet, or he's starting to come into his own. We had him on the show as well. He was a really interesting guy. I like him a lot. But I think that he's starting to put his game together a lot more, and could be a force in that welterweight division. Like I think he came in originally as more of a kickboxer kind of kung fu background guy, and slowly started to add the wrestling into his game, and has become a very well-rounded fighter. And more so, as it progresses, he's always hit hard. He's always been super athletic, and now with him adding the wrestling and whatnot into the game, he's starting to look very, very good. So that one is probably one of the sleeper ones for me. I think, I love Carlos Condit. I've been a massive fan of Carlos Condit, but I think that his best days are behind him, in with all due respect to him. Nico Price versus Michel Pereira. I think that one's going to be fireworks. But that one's that's going to be fireworks, that fight. Ilia Topuria versus Ryan Hall. That one's going to be interesting as well. I probably will start that a little bit early. Omari, the other one but it's starting too far down the card. Like Omari Ahmedov versus Brad Tavares. That's a really interesting fight. I believe I'm interested in watching that fight, but I do think it's a little bit, it's kind of spread out. I'd like to have seen that further up the card, to be honest with you. Omari coming off that win over Tom Breeze, and prior to that losing to Weidman. So yeah, I don't know. So Ziri says, I'm first and foremost in the chat. Woo! Thank you, sir. Jay says, I want Ty to retire Hardy. I think Tai Tuivasa is going to beat Hardy. I think that Ty is very tough, very durable. I don't see Hardy getting him out of there in the first 7 or 8 minutes. And I think after those 7 or 8 minutes, it's going to be hard for Hardy to keep Ty off him. So I definitely see Bam Bam getting that win. I do. So yeah, as far as the Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier fight, I think we spoke a little bit about it yesterday during the Tim Tszyu fight. I think it's going to be it's going to be very, very interesting. I think that how McGregor is able to change up and maybe go back to more of this stuff that everyone knows. He wasn't bouncing like he usually does in his bladed stance in and out. The movement wasn't necessarily there as it is in the past. I think, of course, everyone talks about Dustin Poirier's leg kicks. Like I said before, I think that some of the things that made it difficult for Conor was that's probably the first guy that he's fought that I can think of that's a kick-centric southpaw. He hasn't really fought that before. The only other one that he would have probably fought was Dos Anjos. That fight didn't go forward. Then so he didn't really have to face that. And the ability of Poirier has improved a lot since their first fight. He's able to he shells and rolls with punches and then he's able to counter from that position as opposed to just hitting in the shift like he used to before. So I think that they're big differences for Poirier. But the thing that both he and Nate Diaz do is throw that like check hook, kind of lead hook with their right hand, being southpaw. So when McGregor throws that left hand where he extends on it, which I've spoken about before, because he's got long arms and he does a good job with his kicks to sort of corral you into the fence and opens a gate for you to slide to his right, which you want to go against his power shot. Of course, you don't want to slide into his left. Then he throws that left hand over the top, and kind of leans into it. And not a lot of people have been able to counter over the top with a right hook because he hasn't fought other southpaws. When he's fought both of those southpaws, they've been able to come over the top. Dad says Dustin is actually a right-handed southpaw. Yeah, it doesn't matter. He fights in the southpaw stance. So yeah, they're able to throw that right lead hook over the top, and that's one of the things that Dustin had a lot of success with in that fight. It wasn't just the leg kicks. So I think that's going to be really interesting. I wonder how McGregor will deal with that, because Diaz hit him with that as well. Anthony Holloway says, was good, bro. I hope you're having a great month so far. July has been really hot, but also wonderful. Nice, mate. Where are you? Dad says Connor will come out orthodox. Maybe. I doubt it, though, because a lot of Connor's whole game is built around that southpaw, around that left hand, which is so effective. He hits it so well. The thing is he going to be able to set it up? Is he going to come out and set it up with kicks like he has in the past? Is he going to be able to corral Dustin into a corner? Is he going to go back to trying to use a front kick, which is hard to do if you're both orthodox. If you're both in the same stance, it's harder to hit that front kick. So is he going to be able to upset Dustin's range for those low kicks? Because it's not just about you checking a kick. It's also where are you in relation to that person, and is that person being able to kick? That's why you have to be able to kick with kickers, so you don't just capitulate that space to them. SSJ says, "What's up, Fab? Getting me through another night shift. Much love." Thank you, sir. I'm glad I am, man. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the support. So I don't know. I don't know that he's going to be able to do that necessarily. I don't know that he's going to be able to land that front kick in the same way that he needs to keep Dustin at bay. I also don't know, like Dustin, from a McGregor perspective as well, I'd like to see him hit the body more of Dustin, especially leading the fact that it is a 5-round fight, and Dustin likes to have wars in those 5 rounds, and he lasts those 5 rounds. And McGregor traditionally kind of fades in that 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So yeah, Dad says, I think Conor will kick more. I think he got rid of his boxing coach he used for his last fight. Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not or whatever about, like, I'm not doubting you about him getting rid of the coach. I don't know. I can't really blame the coach for that. You know what I mean? Necessarily. I don't know that it was just his boxing per se versus just the overall game plan, and he wasn't able to adapt in time to what Dustin was doing. Not necessarily like his boxing was bad, but here's the thing that's very important in those situations. And GSP said this, and this is 100% true. It doesn't matter if it's actually real or not, as long as you believe that it's real. So it's not going to help you a lot in life later on, but while you're an athlete, if you can say, okay, I'm going to make some changes. These are the changes I'm going to make, even if they're the wrong changes. But if you're all in on them, it will affect your confidence in a positive way. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a change. I don't know if he's going to be able to kick the same way with Dustin. I think he has to front kick Dustin, even if he changes to orthodox momentarily, throws a front kick, and just starts working the body a little bit, but also working that distance. So Dustin can't just step in and throw that calf kick, which is so damaging. That's my take on it. As far as that's not my whole take, but I think there's some of the things that I see with how those two guys match up. I see also the fact that the way that Dustin is able to take shots on the forehead, he's able to take them on the arms. He kind of shells up and shoulder rolls and throws counters from that. I think can create quite a bit of problems for someone like Conor, because Conor generally does come out with very, very strong. Those first 7 or 8 minutes with Conor McGregor are very, very strong, very, very dangerous. I was impressed with Dustin's ability to do that. And I was impressed with his ability to throw that lead hook. That was one of the biggest things for me. Tasman Andrew says, how's lockdown going? Lockdown's okay, man. Lockdown's okay. For me personally, I think from point of view of, but like I'm just like where I live near the beach. I get to go out to the beach all the time to do, physical exercise and whatnot. It slows down things financially, obviously, when working with other companies or working with other people or things like that. It kind of slows down, and that's not the best because obviously it doesn't just affect me; it affects other people as well. But overall, yeah, pretty good because I have my wife and kids here. Well, my wife and daughter is here, my dog. So we were at the beach today, so it was good. Sage says, "Hey Fab, how are we today?" We are good, my friend. We are good. Good to see that beautiful shiny head. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah. So why don't you guys tell me who you think will win and why? HT says, is Dustin doing too much extra media, interviews, etc. this week compared to Conor, that he's doing almost nothing? And can this be a cause of distraction? I don't know how much media Dustin's doing. I generally don't watch too much of that stuff, to be honest with you. I don't. I don't. I don't know. I don't know how much media Dustin's doing. I don't know how much of a distraction it will be for Dustin or it won't be for Dustin. I don't know how much it affects Conor not doing it. You know what I mean? I really don't know. I don't think that at this stage in the game, if Dustin loses, it won't be because he did too much media, So yeah, I don't know. It can be a distraction if you do too much media and you're not used to doing it. Then yeah, it can affect you for sure, but not at this stage for Dustin. I think like Dustin's been in these positions before. He's been in these positions a lot. SSJ says, you can recommend any books? You look like a smart guy. Thank you, mate. What genre of books? What kind of, what genre? Because there's different, some books are good, but depends what you want to read at that particular time in your life. Is it just a story you want to read? Because I find I find fiction to be like, you think somebody made that up, you know what I mean? That really impresses the hell out of me, you know what I mean? When people write amazing, fiction. But yeah, tell me what genre you're talking about. Philosophical or war books, then read The Prince by Machiavelli. That's what I recommend. That one, definitely recommend that. If you haven't already read it, read, yes, The Prince by Machiavelli. Very, very, very good book. Anthony Holloway says, nothing bad or negative or negativity towards you. Okay. It says, Anthony Holloway, I missed what you said before. I'm from Atlanta, chilling in NYC. By the way, Brody, where I'm from, means another word for homie. I see. Or analogies as I'll die hard for you, brother, or I'm cool with you, so on and so forth. It's a form of respect. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate that. Right back at you, mate. Thank you very much. I haven't heard that term Brody before. Yeah, read that book, SSJ, if that's what you're looking for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think that I was like I said, I was very, very impressed. We'll come back to that fight anyways, but I was very, very impressed with Dustin's ability to land that lead hook, more so than the leg kicks. The leg kicks were obviously very, very like full on, like they were. But his ability to roll with the punches and land that counter lead hook, that's what was very impressive to me as well. HT says, I'm from Florence, Machiavelli's original town. They make us read The Prince in school. Is that for real? They make you read? They should fucking make people read The Prince. I won't be able to say this name properly. Jay says, big love from Poirier, New Zealand, Fab. Thank you, sir. Right back at you, my friend. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Is that for real, HT, that they make you read The Prince when you're in at school? Is that for real? Because if it is for real, that's fucking awesome. Gilbert Burns versus Stephen Thompson. Interesting fight again. HT says, yeah, high school. Yeah, man. Honestly, dude, It's a must read. I see that should be 1,000%. People should have to read that. Did I see that Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler is being worked on? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. That's a fucking crazy fight. That'll be a crazy fight. It was crazy while it lasted the first time round, and this will be crazier still. This fight, I still have Nick Diaz winning. Yeah. Then we got Gilbert Burns versus Stephen Thompson. I think Gilbert Burns is a fantastic fighter, but I think that not all of it. I'm a big fan of Gilbert Burns, but I think that a big part of what propelled him was that win over Tyron Woodley and the way that he did it. I don't know, and this is at the risk of me shitting on. Sounds like I'm shitting on people. I'm not. I just don't think that Woodley is in his career where he was before, and that was like, I think the start of his 16 rounds that he didn't win, or 20 rounds that he didn't win, or something like that. And I do think that made Burns look a lot better than what he was then. Not than what he is, but it was really tailored to Burns, not Burns' fault. Burns went out and did what he did. I think that I'm not entirely sold on the wrestling of Burns at that caliber. I think because with Woodley, he was throwing the leg kicks. He was boxing Woodley, and Woodley was relying on that big right hand. So when Woodley would throw that big right hand and load up, square off his hips, Burns was able to blast double and get him down. And I don't think that is going to be the case with Wonder Boy. Where Burns can do some damage to Wonder Boys with those leg kicks, he might catch Wonder Boy. He could catch him. Like, don't get me wrong, he's got a lot of power, but he doesn't have the finesse and the refined striking, especially against someone like Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy makes it difficult. We've spoken about this a lot before. His footwork and his length and his ability to sniper shots is makes him very difficult to take down. Makes his takedown defense very, very good. A lot of those guys that have that in and out stance, that the good striking, make it very difficult for you to take him down. However, I will say this: up close and in combinations, I don't feel that Wonder Boy is that's his forte. I don't think that's his forte. And maybe Burns can come inside and throw that big left hook and catch him, but he has to catch him. Otherwise, after about end of the second round, which is only a 3-round fight, it's only a 3-round fight, I see that Wonder Boy will have started to pick him apart too much. That's my opinion. That's just me throwing it out there. Pip Dennison says, "Que pasa, jefe? How are you, sir?" Anthony Holloway says, "Hey, man, I get where you're coming from. Not a lot of people around the world or even in the US know hood terms or analogies. Laughing my ass off. It's cool, bro." Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you very much. SSJ says, "Gilbert Burns has some of the best jiu-jitsu in the UFC, though." Gilbert Burns has some of the best jiu-jitsu in the world, my friend. He's got some of the best jiu-jitsu in the world. Yeah, of course, if he gets Thompson down and he's able to secure a position on Thompson, then it's going to be fucking trouble for Thompson. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to do it. Thompson doesn't get taken down much, man. He does not get taken down a lot. So I don't know, but I will say this: Stephen Thompson's also getting older. And at some point soon, and I don't know when, and I'm a huge Stephen Thompson fan, the day's going to come where he's just that little bit slower. I don't know if this weekend will be the day. I don't know if it will be the day in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Maybe it's a preconceived notion that we were talking about here. But, as guys start to get past that mid-30s, you start to look at when is the day that he just slows down that tad. And when you're talking about a very technical striker, but one that relies on the speed and reflexes, you have to ask yourself, when is that day going to come? Anthony Holloway says, "Who do you believe has the best boxing in the UFC?" I don't know, but when you say that off the top of my head, do you mean the best boxing for MMA or the best boxer that's in the UFC? Because honestly, the best boxer to me at the moment is Peter Yan, and he's got like 130 amateur fights, and I think that's where the pedigree comes from. And then his ability to use it, his ability to just suck people into this boxing game, and he's able to switch hit, like he'll step through and shift his stance as he's coming forward and hit you like go 1-2 from an orthodox stance, hop in a southpaw, and then he's much closer to you and he's cut that angle. He's got his foot outside of your lead foot and he bombs you with that left hand, or vice versa. He'll do that from southpaw and then he bomb you with the right hand. And he hit Uriah Faber with one of those combinations. So he's probably the guy who I think has probably got the best boxing in the UFC that I can think of right now off the top of my head. When you just ask me that like that, Jay says Jan's. Oh yeah, he does, but I think Peter. You mean Peter Yan, or do you mean a different fighter? MW says, Fab, I use your mum making an omelette analogy every time I watch fights with people who say shit like, why doesn't he just hit him? Never fails to get a laugh and make the point. You're a poet. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. People don't get that. Like, people don't get, like, you see someone take a shot, like towards the end of a round or something. Like I did the boxing yesterday. I was commentating the boxing yesterday. Dudes get dropped. I got a minute to get, and if you get dropped bad, not like you got hit, you kind of lost your balance and you recovered, depending what happens in the start of the second round. But if you get dropped bad, you got a minute to recover. You can get dropped bad. You don't even know where you are. You don't even know if you lost the fight or not. You don't even know what happened. You got a minute to get all that stuff ready. And that's why I say to people, get hit in the face, try and make an omelet and see how you go. You know what I mean? You don't even know where you are sometimes, man. Street Heat says, don't you work, bro? Yeah, but I don't know where you are. Are you in Australia or in are you in Australia or are you in the US or something? Because for me, it's 4 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon and we're in lockdown in Sydney. We're in lockdown, dude. And I do work, but I work a lot of the time is like kind of around my schedule. That's why it's hard for me to have guests at the moment because I got to kind of do it on my own schedule, the podcast, and so it's a little bit hard to get guests in, because of work. Eamon Redden says Couture became the champion in his 40s, brother. In saying that was a long time ago. UFC are a lot better fighters than they are now. I think you'd have to look into those wins on Randy Couture. That was when TRT was like flooding the UFC. And I don't think it's the same kind of there's a couple of things, right? On that. One, Randy wasn't that type of fighter. He wasn't the type of fighter that sat on the outside waiting, like on his reflexes. He was much more of a methodical, grab you, grind you up against the cage kind of dude. He's a Greco-Roman wrestler. That was his background. So that style ages probably the best out of all the styles because strength and power are the last components of fitness to go. If Randy was a guy that was fighting on the outskirts and boxing, he'd start in the UFC with small gloves and kicking, all the other that can happen. He'll start getting caught, and when he did win, this was still like back then. Everyone, including him, a lot of those old guys, even today, when those guys that are well into their 40s or even past their 30s, like late 30s and that, look into it. Look into if they were on TLT or if they've been busted for steroids or whatnot. I think Randy Couture is quite openly on TRT, so that's not exactly the same thing, And I think he kind of proves my point in the fact that as he started getting older, even with that or whatever, he just started getting caught a lot. Yeah, Adrian Yanez, that's what I thought you were talking about. I think he's got very good boxing too. I like the way he boxes. I like the way he strikes, but I don't think it's at Peter Yan's level. Anthony Holloway says, as in like skill-wise, understandable, Peter Yan is real cold on the feet like Whittaker. I agree with your statement. You see, Rob's got good boxing too. He's got very good boxing. But I don't think like his kicking opens up his boxing, and he's got good grappling, good wrestling, and that opens up his boxing. But as far as like pedigree in boxing, that then they put it together as a boxer and then added everything on it as a boxer, I think Peter Yan's probably the best. What's my favorite weight division to watch? I don't necessarily have a favorite weight division that I like to watch. I like to watch just mainly the fighters. You know what I mean? That's already. John Danon says this question might have already been asked, but were you in Whitaker's corner for the Wonder fight? I wasn't. Around that time I'd probably worked with Rob maybe 3 times, like 3 sessions. I'm talking about. He came and we started just kind of working together. Blah blah blah. He went and fought Wonder Boy, and I hadn't seen him for a bit, and then we spoke a little bit more, and I worked with him from the Rhodes fight. I wasn't in the corner for the Rhodes fight, but I worked with him from the Rhodes fight until the Israel fight, and then the start a little bit of when he was going to fight Cannonier, and then we started working together after that. But I didn't help him the whole way through for the Cannonier fight. Juice says, can fighters just feel where their feet are in reference to position against their opponent? Do you mean where their feet are against their opponent? Like once you understand the distance, and once you understand like how your kinetic energy works, like I will talk about it yesterday. Like if I throw a right hand, then the kinetic energy is going to go right to left, and then I'm going to follow through with the left hook. If you do striking enough, you understand that generally these are the rules of engagement. This is how these things are going to happen. That's why those guys that can kind of make you step out of the matrix, like that's why they're so good and so dangerous. Page says, any chance Rob will come on your podcast soon and get an update on this? I don't think so, man. We're not really getting guests on, and I'm not like, I think we're just doing our own thing at the moment. Dana says, how do you think Burns BJJ will compete against BJJ welterweight monsters, Prime Jake Shields, Prime Damian Maia, and welterweight Alvarez? His jiu-jitsu is really good, man. Like he beat Kron Gracie. He was world champion. You know, he's like fucking very, very good. Jake Shields a bit different. Like he's not like a gi jiu-jitsu guy, you know? Like if you're talking about, or are you talking about in the UFC, in MMA? Again, Jake Shields is an interesting one when you're talking about those guys, because Jake Shields, he's a good wrestler, and you'll get on top, and he won't be scared to take Burns. So that's interesting, because Burns traditionally himself prefers to be on top. Damian Maia, man, Taharis, all those guys, it all depends how you end up. Like, because if you're talking about fighting, it all depends on how you end up, like in what position you end up, what that forces the other guy to do, etc., etc., etc. So yeah. Man, like I've already answered all the Rob questions. You know what I mean? Like there's no more. So yeah, I'll get other people to answer that if they want to answer it, because I've already answered it. No disrespect here. I just like answer the same thing. I'm talking about other fights. Tasman Andrew says Dustin will be coming in with more confidence, and Conor will have more anxieties than usual coming into this fight. Maybe. I definitely agree with you that Dustin will be coming in very confident for sure. I don't know. I can't speak to Conor's anxieties. I don't know. But yeah, MW says, are you still working with fighters at all? Still training yourself? I'm working with a couple of young people that are coming through that you'll probably hear about in the next couple of years for sure. Am I still training yourself? I do still train, but I have I can't roll as much as I'd like to, just because I've got a very, very bad knees. I have to get a double knee replacement. So it creates a lot of pain for me when I roll. So I'm a bit careful with that. I don't roll too much, if at all. Pat says, do you feel that Wonder Boy's karate-centric approach has any ingrained or intrinsic limitation in the realm of MMA. For example, Askren's wrestling-centric approach became obsolete over time. Thanks. Well, no, like everything has limitations and everything has its limits and whatnot. But I mean, there are, but for everything, like there is, right? There are limitations, but for all of those limitations, there are advantages that Wonder Boy has. You know what I mean? And Wonder Boy has very much made that skill his own. I don't agree with you that Askren's style was obsolete. I just feel that he lost. He lost a couple of fights. That's what happened. But prior to that, he hadn't lost. He bashed some really good fighters. I think that for Askren, a big problem as well was his body was already fucking worn down by the time he got to the UFC. And on top of that, I think his boxing, his striking wasn't very well developed, He could have had, I believe, and this is who am I to criticize Ben Askren, but I think that had that striking been more honed, then he would have been able to take better advantage of his wrestling. Although, like I said to you, I do feel that by the time he got to the UFC, his body was already really worn down, more so than his style was bad. So yeah, there are limitations to the karate-centric style. A lot of the bladed stance leaves you the opener for leg kicks and whatnot, but it also is mitigated by how good and how effective you are at using that style. Juice says, sorry, I was just trying to ask about having your feet or inside or outside your opponent's feet. I've been watching boxing breakdowns focusing on footwork. General rule, man, a general rule, you want your lead foot outside of your opponent's lead foot. So, yeah, you'd kind of know where you are just in relation to how, like, say, for example, if I'm orthodox and I'm fighting a southpaw fighter, I want to step outside. The reason that I want to step outside is because it gives me a clear angle to be able to throw that right hand down the middle and then opens up different things. So you would know just by how you're standing with someone if you're outside of their lead foot or not, once you've done enough boxing, kickboxing and whatnot. John Danon says, I hope Wonder Boy wins this Saturday. I like Burns, but he just fought for the title a few months ago. I hope Wonder Boy cuts a promo during his interview. A lot of people will be watching the pay-per-view. Yeah, I think Wonder Boy will probably win, dude, to be honest with you, unless Burns can catch him early. Chris says, do I play chess? Not very well, man. I played chess when I was a kid. I used to play basketball, and if you had a double header, we'd play chess in the middle of the day or something like that. But I don't play that much chess. I beat my accountant in chess, though, the other day, and he was so upset because he was telling me the whole time he's got this big fucking baller house, and he was telling me how he's a bit of a chess prodigy back in the day. And we played chess and I beat him and he got cut. But no, generally I don't play chess. Andre says, I think Burns can win. Depends on how much damage he takes trying to get on the inside. Wonder Boy's a sniper. Burns can definitely win. He can definitely win. He's a very, very good fighter. I just, like I said, I just don't know if he's going to be able to cut that distance and the heavy shots on Wonder Boy. Because once in those first exchanges, when they're both hitting hard and they're both dry, blah, 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 Burns is very, very, very going to be very, very dangerous. But as Wonder Boy starts to get the timing right and understands where Burns is going to be and starts to pick him apart and pick Burns coming in, it's going to get very difficult for Burns. Not impossible, but difficult. Anthony Holloway says, Floyd Mayweather Jr. is the best boxer of all time. When it came to managing distance in the ring, in my honest and humble opinion, he is a monster. Funny thing, he got hit. I was saying about McGregor going to the body with Poirier, and I think somebody hit, I remember this because Mayweather was shelling up how he does. Mosley did the same thing. Mosley started going to the body and then came over the top with the big right hand and hurt Mayweather, But yeah, Mayweather's fantastic, man. So he says, do I like men? I don't dislike men. I had a very good relationship with my father. John Deanan says, Nico Price versus Michel Pereira is the most I think you mean authentically fun UFC matchup. Goofy strikes are going to be thrown throughout that fight. That's going to be crazy, man. Tahid, man, what is wrong with people like you, man? I'm just going to block you. John says, thoughts on Aldana fight. I'm rooting for Aldana in this matchup. Aldana is coming off a frustrating loss to Holly Holm. Aldana is due for a knockout by a crisp Mexican boxing. I don't know enough, to be honest with you. I don't know a hell of a lot about Aldana. So I would be giving a very uneducated answer. So I don't know enough, to be honest with you. Street Heat says, one thing with Poirier I noticed in the last fight was that his boxing was exceptional, and yet Connor said he's been focusing on boxing, yet he didn't seem as precise or as quick. Like I said, I think like we're talking, I think, who was it that asked? The guy from Atlanta. My friend Holloway from Atlanta. Is it Holland? What's your surname? Holloway from Atlanta. We were talking about who's the best boxer in MMA. There's one thing to be focusing on boxing and being a good boxer. The other thing is when you're in there, because when you're in there, there's a lot of other things happening. It's not a gentleman's agreement that you're going to box. So, for example, you could be a better boxer than someone, right? But if you box them not in the ring, you box them in the octagon, that changes a lot of things already. A big part of boxing is knowing how to use the ring, how to use the square circles, how to use the corners. That's a massive part of it. So if you're not, it changes once that's gone. Like once you're in the octagon, it's gone. It's different. I've seen good boxers struggle with MMA fighters in the boxing in the octagon, just simply because the ranges are different. But then, man, when you put the same MMA fighters in the boxing ring and the boxer can use it and corral you into a corner, is a completely different thing. So all of those things come into play. They're very big. They're very big. And the counter and the timing, that's why I was saying to you, it wasn't just a leg kick with Poirier. It was his ability as well to land those lead hooks when Conor was throwing the big left hand. So that's going to throw you off, man. That's going to throw off McGregor's timing a lot. The leg kicks are going to throw off your timing, make you not look precise or quick. John Danon says, have you ever had a shoey? I have not. Chris Fredrickson says, laughing my ass off to you like, man, I know, man. I don't even know what to do about that. Juice says, men are the best. If I wasn't straight, I'd definitely be gay. Jack Wood says, Fab, is football coming home? I don't know what that means. So Chill says, sorry if it's been asked before, but what do you think happens to McGregor if he loses this fight? Fuck, man. McGregor could probably get a title shot if he loses the fight. It won't really matter. Whatever he wants, really. I don't think that much would happen. Though, and I mean, they'll create a storyline. He could get a fourth fight with Dustin. Who fucking knows? He's very good at creating a storyline. He's very good at getting people to buy in. The UFC love giving him the storyline. The UFC loves it because people buy in and because he can sell the shit out of a fight. And credit to him for that. So he could say anything. People will still watch McGregor fight. You get what I mean? Because he is an exciting fighter, win, lose, or draw, and he sells the storyline. So if he loses, man, they'll make a fourth fight. They'll say, well, that's 2-1 for Dustin. Let's give McGregor a chance to even it out. And Dustin will take it because he's going to get the money fight. I'm not saying that's what will happen, but I'm saying to you, anything can happen like that. Like, I don't think it's going to affect him unless he wants it to affect him or unless, he doesn't want to fight. Jay says, how would Rob versus Jan at light heavyweight go differently to Issy versus Jan? They're different fighters, though. They're real different fighters. I think whilst Jan is a lot bigger, he's not as quick as those two. And out of the two of them, the ability to blitz in and out, Rob's quicker, So I can't say how it would go because I don't know. But like at middleweight, they're quick, they're quicker fighters. That's why it looks different, It looks like it's not necessarily a harder fight just because you've gone up sometimes. So they're very different. Rob and Israel. Very, very different. Salah Ahmed says, Hey Fab, do you think Conor has a chance at taking a decision? Or more crucially, do you think he can stay in the fight if it goes past the second round? I mean, it depends what's happened in those 2 rounds. If he's sustained damage, like if he's 8 leg kicks and stuff like that, then it's going to get really, really hard for him. He's an elite athlete. He's more the problem with McGregor where you see that is that, like, if he can't knock you out, this starts to be a struggle for sure after about the 3rd round, because that's how he fights. There's nothing. It's not a criticism. That's, if you're blessed with the power that he has, you're going to use it, and that power is going to be most prominent in those first 7 minutes. That's just science. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it works. But can he win a decision? Yeah, I mean, he could, but I mean, he did win. He got the win against Diaz in that second fight. It was a very close fight. Very close fight. The second fight against Diaz, but it's harder for him, to win that fight if it goes past the second round. Halfway through the 3rd round, if he hasn't hurt, it depends also if he's hurt Poirier. Say he's dropped Poirier a couple of times, it becomes easier for you, like, to hurt him further in the fight. It just depends, If you come out the way he dropped Diaz in that second fight was bad, in early in that second fight. And if he drops someone like that affects your fucking cardio, man. You know what I mean? That believe me, that it does. So it just depends what happens in the fight, man. It really depends. Like, people want to say, oh, you do this and do that. People don't get that. They don't get that it's a fight. They don't get that it's a fight. Like, even when they talk about Israel and Rob, and they don't get, like, oh, it was a bad game plan. How the fuck would you know? I knew the game plan. Rob knew the game plan. The other coaches knew the game plan. How the fuck would you know? We didn't tell it to you. The thing with that as well is Rob didn't get a chance to take Israel down, in that fight, because Israel dropped him in the first round. Credit to Israel. It's a fucking fight. It's not, against a hell of a good fighter too. So it's not as simple as you just going, oh, just go out and do this. Like, well, fuck, why are you sitting there listening to me? You should be out doing that. It's not as easy as just saying that. Like, can you get McGregor out of the second round? Yeah, but maybe McGregor drops you twice in the first 2 rounds. Now you're not in a better state going 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So generally, Diaz is going to have much better cardio than McGregor, and it would be better for him for over 5 rounds. But the way he got dropped affects you, man. It really, really, really affects you. It's not, you don't just shake that off and you're okay, no matter how good your chin is. John Danon says, yeah, so in answer, sorry, Salah, and its short answer is it just depends what happens, man. Generally, I'm going to say to you that, yes, it's in Dustin's favor, but if he gets dropped or hurt or rocked or beat to the body badly by McGregor in those first 2 rounds, maybe McGregor can win a decision, yeah. So John Danon says, Tuivasa versus Hardy should be a good fight. I think Hardy will start out strong, but gas out after 3 minutes and Tai will begin to land nasty calf kicks. Man, probably. Also, Hardy coming in and trading hard with Bam Bam. Bam Bam's one of those dudes in that division that's going to hit back super hard as well, So it's only going to be to Hardy's detriment. I really, outside of Hardy landing just like a real big shot on Bam Bam, I don't know how he beats Bam Bam. That's my honest opinion. Corey says, what are your thoughts on O'Malley as a fighter and his skills? And you need a chat moderator, Fab. I have 2 moderators. They're just on a different time frame than me. What am I think O'Malley's a very good fighter. I think he's a very, very good fighter. I think he's got really good movement, knows how to sell the fights as well, which is important. Knows how to keep people interested and how to put bums on seats and make people pay. But whichever way you want to look at it, he hasn't had that, in my opinion, he hasn't had that come out fight. You know what I mean? Cheeto could have been that come out fight, but he didn't get the win. Do you get what I mean? Um, I haven't seen that fight yet where you go, holy fuck, he just beat the shit out of someone, that X, Y, and Z, means this or means that in that particular division. I think he's ranked 16th or something like that. So he's definitely got all the potential in the world. Don't get me wrong. And I've seen the potential. Now we need to see him fight someone that is going to pose a threat right now, as in like, I just haven't seen that yet, and I'm sure we will. Beetlejuice says, hey Fab, have you heard the boxer from the 80s, 90s, Aaron Pryor? He's a must watch, extremely aggressive, high work rate boxer. The name, no, I can't say right off the top of my head like this. I haven't, no. But I don't know why he rings a bell too, Juice says Diaz will get the title fight, pull off a miracle win, then he'll fight and defend a belt against McGregor. Mark my words, Diaz army. I think, honestly, Juice, that is one of the angles. Like when people are asking, I think McGregor still got the trilogy fight with Diaz. They'd love to have that trilogy fight for the belt. They would love that. The UFC would love it. I don't know that Diaz gets through the the gauntlet that is welterweight division. I don't see that. Yeah, I don't know that he does. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and it wouldn't matter. Like if Diaz got the belt at welterweight, McGregor would go up, and they'd give McGregor a welterweight title shot. And then if he was a three-time division champion, they'd love that too. So that's what I'm saying to you. I don't know. Like I really don't know what happens for McGregor or whatever. EKSSF says, "Hey Fab, I have no question. Just take care, man. Thank you so much, my friend." MW says, you think we should separate our drug tested versus natural MMA competition like they do in bodybuilding? Do you think PEDs can ever actually be eliminated from elite sport in general? No, it will never be eliminated. And it's actually extremely hypocritical because people want to see NBA players play an 82-game regular season, play the playoffs, play the fucking finals, 7-game series, and then play like international games too. The body doesn't recover like that, dude. The body doesn't recover. People want to see that. Massive sponsors want to see that. Big money wants to see that. Soccer, same deal. You want to see him play the Euro League. You want to see him play Champions League. You want to see him play domestic. You want to see him play international games. The body doesn't recover like that. It just doesn't. Season after fucking season after season. You want to watch your NRL players play 26 games regular season. Anyone from Australia that watches National Rugby League, it is fucking brutal, man. You want to see these guys play 26 games, right? Plus State of Origin, that's 3 games, plus international games, plus the finals, semi-finals, quarterfinals, grand finals. You want to see all of that, and you want to see them do that year after year after year. I know I've worked with a lot of rugby league players, and you see what goes on with their bodies. And then when somebody takes steroids or they take anything or whatever, it's, oh my God, and blah, 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 blah. And people just, they don't. You want to see guys run, a sub 9-second 100 if you could. You don't want to see guys run 10-20 and be clean. So, no, that's my short answer. I don't even think it'll be eliminated from elite sport because reality is the sponsors, the people, the public, they don't want it. They don't want it to be eliminated. But people want to live in a fairy tale too. Do we think we should separate the drug tested versus the natural? Well, it depends, man, because like the guys that are taking the gear, they're saying that they're clean. So they're still going to go in the natural one. You know what I mean? They're not going to go against the other dudes that are yoked up as well. Mixed partial farts says, I agree. It seems Charles Oliveira has hit his prime, but Poirier seems to be in his prime now too. Alas, it should be a good one if Dustin beats McGregor again. Sorry, I missed something. I think oh, no, for some reason, I just skipped a whole bunch of people. Okay. Uh, in Toronto, it's 2:22 a.m. But I love this shit. I subbed. Shout out to you, the fair one. Thank you, mixed partial farts. I really appreciate it very much, man. Thank you so much, my friend. Really, really do. Alex Collar says, "Hey Fab, 9-1 odds on Ryan Hall by sub. Let's get you some commission. Let's do it, man. Let's go." Salah Ahmed says, Poirier's coach made this point that I don't see being brought up a lot. He said, Dustin has the most wattage output of anyone over 25 minutes in lightweight. No one has that level of power and volume combo. I agree with that. I agree with that to a certain degree. I do. A big thing with Dustin, he gets into wars, but he doesn't seem to eat shit tons of damage. Like he seems to take it on the forehead, on the arms, and that also will allow him to have that wattage, so to speak, the power and volume, and people don't really hit his body that much. They don't really hit his body as much as you'd think they would. And so he's able to get into these wars of attrition, but he's not in there like getting smashed. He's not like Gaethje, say, for instance, where Gaethje, takes shots flush on the fucking head. And at some point you go, man, this is not, you're not going to do it. Poirier gets into wars, but he's very smart in the way that he does it. And so as the fights progress, he hasn't worn the same amount of damage that his opponent has. So I agree with that. That is very, very cool. Monkey Brain says, on board, call me. Where are you, Monkey Brains? Michael Page says, what's your speciality when it comes to combat sports? I mean, what you're best at training? Mainly I was focused on grappling, mainly I focus on grappling stuff. Like cage defense, cage takedowns, wrestling, or Olympic freestyle wrestling, jiu-jitsu as well, but I'm not a specialist in jiu-jitsu by any stretch of the imagination. I kind of put all of those together, you know what I mean? I'm pretty good at putting them all together. I'm not a specialist at any one of those things, but when I put them all together, like up against the cage, yeah, I understand what's going on in that part. But more than anything, I work more as a high performance coach. I'm able to bring the right coaches in, make sure that the coaches work together, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. Mixed partial fight says Ryan Hall by sub plus 500. Yep. Excuse me. Got to sprinkle or even hammer if you're confident. Jenga Bango says Ryan's going to get slept. So I'm going to skip a few. Hanoi Tripper says, not sure if you talked about the main event, but does Poirier drop way down and move up to 170 if Conor smokes him in a highlight KO? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that him losing to Conor would really drop his stock that much, because the thing would be if Conor wins, I'd have to assume this. I'm just guessing this. I don't know. If Conor wins, he'd have to fight Charles for the belt, right? If Conor beats Charles, he won't defend. He'll go up, And even whether Conor stays or not, Dustin will only ever be 1 or 2 fights away from the belt. So I don't think that his stock will get destroyed like that. You know what I mean? The Hungarian Hustler says, good afternoon, Fab and the Fair One. I'm so excited and the Fair One family. I'm so excited for this card. Really don't have an opinion on who's going to win. So many things to take into mind. I can't wait to see what happens. Thank you, Hungarian Hustler. I really appreciate it. And man, we're pretty pumped. And I hope to catch all you guys on Saturday for sure. Monkey Brain says, let's talk MMA, and sends his phone number out there. Before I forget, because I have to. Okay. Anthony Holloway says, Shane Mosley in his prime was a killer. It truly sucks that he lost to young punks in his later years, who would never have held his jocks during his prime. It's still shocking he almost beat Floyd Mayweather Jr. Mosley was a fucking beast back in the day. Mixed Partial Fart says, Moit, you Aussie or Kiwi, bro? Can't tell by the accent. And shout out to my Aussie and Kiwi brethren. Where are you from? Are you the one that said you're from Canada? I'm from Southwest Sydney. Southwest Sydney, Australia. That's why I sound the way I sound. Otherwise, I sound very different to New Zealanders. Like if I went to New Zealand, they'd know I'm not from New Zealand. But Southwest Sydney has its own little like speech pocket, and a lot of people from Southwest Sydney sound like me. So I throw people off. Even here in Australia, I live on the South Coast now, and people think I'm South African, or they think I'm from New Zealand or something like that. So even here in Australia, they fuck up my accent. Jordan Fadner says much better wrestlers than Rob have tried and failed to take Izzy down. I don't know like of too many, like maybe Yoel, you could say. I think Rob's a pretty good wrestler though. He's not as good a wrestler as Yoel, but he's a pretty fucking good wrestler. He made the Commonwealth Games national team, in Australia. Granted, it's not a powerhouse wrestling team, but he can wrestle. The thing with Israel, man, is his takedown defense. It starts way before you shoot the double. That's the other thing. Like, say for example, Vettori took him down, but Vettori was like jumping into the takedown, like spearing into a double leg. And you can only do that so many times before you're either going to get a flying knee or you're just going to get yourself tired, hold him up against the cage. It wasn't really working in the same. It's different. It's a different thing, like I can't explain this without kind of running Vettori down, because I'm not trying to run him down. But there was a point where Vettori was trying to get the takedown more than he was trying to win the fight, it seemed to me. Even later in the fight, where even if he had taken Israel down right at the end of the fight, he wasn't going to win the fight. So that's where it's different for people. I think with Rob, he's going to engage Israel in the stand-up, and he's going to go for the takedowns. That's what he was going to do the first time. That's what he'll do the second time. It won't be any different, in as far as that's concerned. Now, if Israel doesn't catch him, it's a different story. Both those guys are very good, man. That's the game. That's always going to be the game between the two of them. In there, Rob might catch him and drop Israel, or vice versa. Who knows? Do you think Khabib will come back if Conor becomes champion again? I really don't know. I really, really don't know. I don't know. If he's at peace with himself and he's happy with what it is, then yeah. Like, I'm not Khabib by any stretch of the imagination, but right now, like, just even from a coaching perspective or whatever, just for me, anyways, this is just to give it a kind of a parallel example. I stepped out of it and whatever. Like, I have no want or need to be back in and around that. Going to events or not, I'm not interested. I'm in a different chapter in my life. I may revisit that later, but why I'm saying that is, I know other coaches that when they stop coaching, they miss it a lot, because I talk to other people and that, and they do want to be back involved again, and it's the same with fighting as well. I don't know where Khabib's at. I really don't know. I don't know him, so I don't know where he's at in his life. If he's at a new chapter in his life where he's enjoying coaching and he doesn't have to travel and be away from his family, and he's around his wife and kids and that, and he's happy, I don't know that he'd want to fight. And he's not stupid, he'd also know that window for returning at his absolute prime where he was when he left, it's closing. And he also knows that you can be at your absolute prime and still be caught at any stage. You can catch a hot one at any stage. That's what people don't get. That's why when people talk about it, they'll talk, oh, he done this, so he should have done that, and blah, blah. You can get caught at any fucking time. You can drop your level to shoot and eat an uppercut, and it's over. And you could eat an uppercut with the guy closing his eyes and throwing the uppercut up, and you running straight into it, and that's it. Khabib goes from 29-1, and he goes from some mythical creature that couldn't be beat, to that, you know what I mean? Which I would not think less of him, but these are what for? I don't know. Mixed Partial Fart says MMA wrestling is different from collegiate and amateur. Just ask GSP. It absolutely is, man. It is. Not only is collegiate, not only is it different, but like jiu-jitsu is different in MMA. Boxing is different in MMA. All those things are different in MMA. So yeah, absolutely. Mixed Martial Arts says Rob is the most evolved fighter that Izzy will face. It will be a good one. I think both those guys are in their prime. Both those guys are super dangerous, and I think it will be a good fight. I'd pick Rob to win. That's my thing. I think he will beat him, but Israel's very, very fucking good, man. Very good. Anthony Holloway says, bro, I believe pro boxing is way more dangerous than pro MMA. Do you agree with my honest opinion? I think in certain ways, yeah, potentially it is much more dangerous. You take a lot more shots with bigger gloves, which is not good for your brain. Good for your hands. You're protecting your hands. But yeah, you take a lot more shots. Like we're talking about that Holloway Qatar fight, where I think Holloway threw 700 punches, and 700 punches are thrown like a lot in boxing. You know what I mean? It's not unheard of to have that. So yeah, no, it's more dangerous in that regard. Yeah. Is it harder on your body? Probably not harder on your body though, in different ways, but for your brain, for sure, dangerous on your brain. You're absolutely 100% right with boxing being more dangerous for your brain. And you do hundreds of rounds in the gym. Harder on your body and dangerous in different ways. MMA is worse for your body. Like the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu and all of that, fuck up your body. Bad. Mixed Partial Fart says, yo, Fab, the name Aaron Pryor probably rings a bell because of the name Richard Pryor. Maybe. Spartacus says, Oliveira kills them all at this point, in my view. I don't think anyone in that division kills them all. You know, you might have a good fight against someone, but even in that fight against Chandler, people forget, like it wasn't all Oliveira's way. You know, he got Chandler's back, then Chandler hurt him. And I thought Chandler was going to have a chance of stopping the fight, you know, but it didn't happen, you know. So that's what I'm saying. Only a punch away. Had Chandler's shots landed a little bit different, he might have done another number that he did on Dan Hooker. I think I said what you said before. Mixed Partial Fart, so I'm not going to say it. Charles versus Dustin. I've got Charles, to be honest. That's an interesting fight, man. That's a really interesting fight. Chris Fredrickson says, what's the worst KO you've ever seen? One of the worst I've seen is Tommy versus Miguel in felony fights. I don't know which one that is, but I've seen some bad ones, man. I've seen some bad knockouts. Column says, there is a squad of players in football, basketball, rugby, etc. Use the fucking subs. Stop complaining about lots of games. This are team games. Use the team. I don't understand what you meant by that, Column, but you sound very upset. Juice says, off topic, I just watched a podcast where this guy talked about getting off caffeine for 3 months, and we had his first latte. He said it was almost psychedelic, so maybe you're right to stay away. Dude, that was fucking me. That happened to me. It was so fucking bad. So bad. I'd been off coffee for about, I'm going to say 8 months, something like that, you know, because I'd had bad, like I went through real bad anxiety, you know, real bad anxiety attacks. And I got off coffee, you know. I went to hospital, the whole fucking works with anxiety. And then I was in the car with my wife. This is maybe 3 or 4 years ago. 3 years, something like this. And we were in the car and I said to her, you know what? I'm going to have a coffee. And she goes, I don't know if you should. And I said to her, no, because I love coffee, you know. I don't drink it anymore. And we pulled over and I drank a piccolo, like a shot of coffee. Dude, it was honestly, my legs shook like I couldn't breathe properly and I started crying. I started fucking having like a bad breakdown kind of thing, you know. It was so fucking bad, dude. You know, I had to take a Valium, everything, you know, and I don't take anything. And so I don't really drink coffee or that anymore. I can have a coffee now and I won't have that experience. Even if I had one right now, I won't have that experience. But yeah, coffee sends me like back in the day when I used to work a lot. If I had coffee, and I had coffee every day, but my first coffee in the morning, I could see the matrix. Like my life would just like everything felt awesome. Everything felt amazing. And I could do so much work, man. And I had 2 coffees in one day, and I was like one in the morning, one mid-afternoon, and I'd work 18 hours a day, no problems, every day. Like, that was crazy. That's my life used to be. So then after that, I had this massive breakdown. So it's not surprising. So yes, I stay the fuck away from it. I'm just going to skip a few. The Hungarian hustler says, "Do you think Zoo can hurt the meter great white that jumped out to your face with one of those devastating body shots he landed last night? I was thinking that big do in that situation. Maybe. Tim Zoo could do anything." Column says, "If McGregor wins, I think it will more than likely be a nice KO. I agree it won't damage Dustin's stock." Juice says, at Column, "I don't know, mate. I assume you're talking about PEDs. I don't know what he was talking about either, Column. If you've ever played a long season, you'd understand why it takes its toll and why PEDs make a huge difference." Yeah, massive, dude. Fucking huge, dude. If you understand, man, you played rugby league, you played basketball, dude. You know, you banged up at the end of every game. What I'm saying to you is then when the players get caught doing it, everyone's like, "Oh my God," and blah, blah, blah. But you want to see them play those games. And you want to live in a fairy tale where these guys don't touch that stuff, you know? Michael Page says, "Love your show, mate. Love you guys, man. Thank you so much." Alex Collar says, "New neon sign looks great, Fab. Can't wait for the new merch to come out." Well, it's coming out soon, guys. Thank you so much. Adam Mason says, "I'm just pumped to watch Ryan Hall do his thing. Dude's been running from him. That's why he's ranked number 22. I like to see him on the ground, man. He's a monster." Thank you so much, sir. Safa707 says, "Do you think this is the highest stakes non-title fight in UFC history? I can't think of a fight with so much at stake. Title shot, McGregor, Brandon legacy, Poirier legacy. Stay well, mate." Honestly, no. I agree with you, though. But no, because I think McGregor's fight with Diaz, if I'm not mistaken, neither one of those were title shots. And they were massive, like fucking huge. McGregor had more steam on him than he does now. Do you get what I mean? He has more steam on him than he does now, you know? So I think those ones were the biggest ones that I can think of. Alex Collar says, "Although the accent is different, Fab, us Australasians, Oz and Kiwi, are pretty similar in culture, easy for people to confuse." 1,000%, dude. 100 billion%. And I said to you, like here on the south coast of Australia, people think I'm from New Zealand. No, but it's very like whenever, like if I travel from overseas, I see New Zealanders or whatever, I always feel like it's the same place kind of thing. Especially like it's easier and it's quicker for me to get from Sydney to Auckland than it is from Sydney to Perth, you know? By the way, man, New Zealand is fucking beautiful. I'm trying to convince my wife to move over there, you know? She loves it here, though, on the south coast of Australia. But I think that if we went to Auckland, like not Auckland City necessarily, but just outside of Auckland, yeah, she'd love it. You know, she'd love it. It's really, really beautiful place, man. I really, really love New Zealand, man. Adam Mason says, "I thought Bobby Knuckles was done, but he's better than ever." Honestly, no disrespect to you, but why would you think he's done? He's lost. He's 11-1 as a middleweight, and this loss was against Israel. Why would he be done? Or I think he's more than 11-1 now. I think he might be 12-1 or something now. HMSG says, "Why did you stop coaching?" I haven't really stopped coaching, to be fair. I tried to stop coaching. I tried to stop coaching, much to my wife's dismay. Look, at the time, man, I think, let me see. Like I've said this already a whole bunch of times, but I'll say it again. Like I'm 41 now, right? I'm 41. And, you know, going back to the whole talk about the coffee and working long hours, like I worked a lot. Like I was a full-time college teacher in teaching sport and fitness and that in college. And I ran 2 gyms and coached a lot of fighters and worked with athletes. I was always working with athletes in other sports as well. And that's kind of how I came to work with Rob and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it was just all day, just working. I didn't obviously didn't have a family or anything like that. And then it just got to a point where I didn't want to keep doing that. I wanted to. I knew my wife for a long time before, but she wasn't my wife. Like we knew each other, we were friends or whatever. But like we didn't even live in the same city. So and then she moved back to where to Sydney, and then I just wanted a different thing. We got married, and we both wanted to start a family, and I wasn't going to start a family doing that and living and traveling. I didn't want to travel anymore. I didn't want to travel overseas, and I didn't want to be away from home. At the end of the day, I was away from home maybe 3 to 4 months out of every year, and I didn't want to do that when I have kids. And being that I'm 41 and I worked so hard, I wanted to be able to spend some time with my kids, and so the next few years, the next 3-4 years at least, maybe even the next 5 years, it's more around my family and being here. So I'm still coaching people on and off, and like that's what this www.askcoachfab.com thing is. I'm doing that's the kind of stuff that I do. And so I'm still doing that, but I'm not like full-fledged in anything like that. So I sold my gyms and all of that. If in the future I open up a small little gym for people that's non-competition based or something for the next 5-6 years, I'll probably do that, but it's not going to be based on anything like that right now. Right now, I'm just concentrating on my daughter and my next daughter that'll be born in December. So my second daughter will be born in December. So that's kind of the answer, HMSG. Adam Mason says, I heard someone say New Zealanders sound like Aussies melting. Column says, definitely not biggest high stake non-title shot, nowhere near. Which one do you think it was, Column? Lakshay says, who is the GOAT of MMA for you? I don't know, man. I don't know. It depends. It's very hard to compare people outside of their eras because to me, what Fedor was at his time was fucking impressive. You know what I mean? That was really, really impressive. Like what Fedor did in during his time. Is he as good as Cain Velasquez? No, I don't think so. I think Cain Velasquez beats him, but in his era, at his time, that was impressive. You GSP, Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes was a monster as well at his time. GSP then beat him, but in their eras, they were monsters. Joe Schmo says, good afternoon, Fab and gentlemen. Good afternoon, my friend. I'm going to miss a few people. Mark B says, what do you think Dan Hooker does next? Does he match up well against RDA? I think Dan Hooker matches up well with just about anyone, man. Dan Hooker's a fucking monster. That's a good fight. I think Dan Hooker, for me, I'll give him a little bit more of an advantage there. I just see him more in his prime than RDA is. I think RDA's had better days. Adam Mason says, Wonderboy beats Burns, then my boy Colby beats Marty Fake Newsman, then my boy Wonderboy beats my boy Colby, and I'm all smiles. Could be. I'd like to see all of those fights. Some says, buzzing out of coffee is fun. Feels like you're floating. That thing, Turkish stuff does it. Yeah, Turkish coffee's hardcore, dude. Turkish coffee's hardcore. The Greek coffee, all those stuff, hardcore. The Hungarian Hustler says, how's a German monster today, Fab? Mine's out front doing what we did as kids, playing all together on the street. That makes me happy. So much better than being on the game console. Crazy little terrors. She is making my wife's life hell outside here, man, carrying on and going mad. She's healthy, man. She's been running around on the beach all day. She just jumps in the cold water, does whatever she wants. So I love it. True. Sometimes I forget. Safa says, I forget Conor was reigning featherweight champion, making a jump to welterweight to fight Diaz on short notice. I wonder what happened in the timeline where RDA didn't break his foot. In fairness to that, he didn't jump to welterweight to fight Diaz. Diaz was a lightweight. They were both lightweights, and they just fought at welterweight. That's what happened. South Island is the best. All right, I will look into that. I am trying to get my wife to move to New Zealand with me. You know, I'd love to go there. Laksha says, how's lockdown Sydney? Man, it is lockdown, my friend. It is lockdown. We're in lockdown end of this week, all of next week. Juice says, interesting from my humble casual opinion. I see Covington as a less powerful Masvidal. Again, I don't know. I'm a casual. No, he's not. He's a very powerful guy, man. Colby Covington is a very, very good fighter. I'm not a Colby Covington fan necessarily, but he's a fantastic fighter. Very, very, very accomplished grappler. Very like all-American wrestler. He won a gold medal at the Filler Grappling tournament as well, which is big time, you know. So he's a very, very, very good grappler. Very, very good grappler. And his striking's improving all the time. Adam Mason says, the way Izzy ran through him, I thought Bobby was done with those bouts against Yoel taking toll. Is one blah, blah, blah. I love Bobby. Honestly, dude, if you watch a fight, I didn't see Israel run through him. That's me. I didn't see that. I saw that the first round was close and Israel caught him at the end. Very good punch by Israel. Dropped Rob. And then in the second round, Rob was hurt, man. That punch hurt him, you know. And had that been a little bit earlier, Israel would have finished him in that round. But running through someone is when you completely dominate them. And even honestly, I didn't see that. Safa says, I think Usman looked uncharacteristically tired in the Masvidal rematch after some hard scrambles in the first round, despite the amazing KO. Covington definitely noticed that and will look to wrestle. I'm surprised that Covington didn't try and wrestle with Usman in that fight. But they're very similar fighters. You know, they're very, very similar fighters. Okay, let me... Juice says, how many TFOP shirts do I need to buy to get you to move to NZ? I could see an MMA hub opportunity for all the Pacific Islands. I've said it once and I'll say it again. These Polynesians are the future. Polynesians are the most overrepresented people in the NFL. And it doesn't surprise me, you know. I don't know, man. I don't know. I want to. If I could get a job over there, I would go 100%. Juice says, I'm 183 centimeters, 120 kilograms, and I walk through this high school feeling like a child. Yeah, you're like average size for a Samoan. HMSG says, I'm watching this in Mexico. I really enjoy this podcast. Thank you. No, thank you, sir. Thank you for watching. Are you Mexican? The Hungarian Hustler says, it'd be hard to train like an animal when you have a yacht the size of Connor's. You know what I mean? Alex Collar says, hey, Fab, as a coach has worked with athletes, do you have any recommendations for lower back stretches? BJJ is taking a toll. Honestly, what I would say to you is, because there's a million ones that specifically target the back, and we can be here all day, but I would say to you to just start doing yoga. You can just download like the Nike app, you know, the just Nike training app, and just go to the yoga thing that they have, and you just start doing yoga. Do it. Don't go crazy. Do like 10, 15-minute yogas every day. Like pick the ones you like, and you're going to start to pick the ones that best suit your back and loosen you up a little bit. But there are very specific stretches that you can do to unlock all of that. Juice says, HMSG, hola amigo, ¿cómo estás, güey? Yayo says, Fab, are you leaning towards Burns versus Thompson? Also, if you answered me, let me know. I would rewatch. I did answer, but I will say to you that, yes, I am leaning towards Thompson. But Burns is a fucking monster, so I wouldn't be surprised if Burns wins at all. HM says, hola, todo bien, hermano? Which means, hello, everything good, brother. Safa says, I train occasionally at Dan Hooker's gym, the Combat Academy in Auckland. I'm just a fan training for fun, and I cannot speak highly enough of him and the environment at his gym. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Yeah, I like Dan Hooker a lot. He's a good guy and fucking great fighter. Alex Collar says, if you move to NZ, Fab, I'll show you the spots for spearfishing and surfing. Well, mate, that sounds like a deal. I'm working, man. I'm trying to get my wife to do it, but I don't think she will. Okay, I'll probably skip a few. Bob Tuback says, when two wrestlers grapple, it's a waste of energy and most of the time becomes a stalemate. Yes, but if you're a guy that wants to drag it into the later rounds, I think it would have. I think Colby felt comfortable on the feet, and I think that's why Colby didn't. But just watching Colby and his gas tank and the way he fights, I would have thought that that's what he'd want to do, like take some of that power and strength and energy out of Usman, and I think that's what he'll do. They're going to start to get after it, you know what I mean? Like the two of them. I think so. I think he's going to make him wrestle a little bit. Adam Mason says, yes, yoga is a gift from India to the world. Everyone should do yoga. Yeah, 100%, man. Andre says, I hope we get Riddell versus Gillespie. Me too. That'd be a crazy fight. Safa707 says, I think for Conor, there's literally hundreds of millions of dollars of brand at stake in this fight. I don't know how anyone could handle that pressure. The problem is, dude, that I think that his brand name is done. Like it's already like strong. So I don't think it matters what he does. You know what I mean? Like I think, yeah, he's done. He's going to do whatever he does and he'll be fine. You know what I mean? He's thrown a trolley through a fucking bus and almost blinded people and he was fine. So I think he'll be all right. Ibrahim Ali says, how would a pound-for-pound fight go between Stephen Thompson and Israel Adesanya? Hard to say, dude. It's very, very hard to say because like there's attributes that they both really accentuate at their respective weight divisions. You know what I mean? I don't think Stephen Thompson would do very well at all if he went up in weight. You know what I mean? So pound for pound, it's very hard because Israel uses that length so well, but he wouldn't have his length and size at welterweight. You're not going to have guys with that kind of like that kind of frame that can use it that well at welterweight. So it's very hard to say, like, you know, that fight in particular, that fight would be a real hard one to do a hypothetical pound for pound. I would lean towards Israel, just simply because he's had more fights in that kickboxing realm, you know what I mean, and done well against really good guys. So I'd probably lean towards Israel. Column says, if Conor loses, it doesn't matter. UFC can still market him and make big fights. Yes, I agree. HMSG says, wondering your thoughts on the Tuivasa versus Hardy fight. Like I said, I agree. I think that Hardy can come out strong in the first few minutes, but you know, Tuivasa can match that. He can match that physicality, and the longer the fight goes, it's going to be to Hardy's detriment. I think that Tuivasa is actually the better striker. Adam Mason says, they're saying if Conor loses, does the Nate trilogy then fade away? I don't think so. I don't think so. If anything, it'd probably make Nate want it more. You know, no, I don't think it fades. Yeah, I don't think so. You know, I don't know. Like, he can do whatever he wants, really. Yeah, so anyways, guys, that's it for me. Let's talk about this more on Sunday morning when the fights are on, man. Let's all join me, please, for the fights. Let's have a good chat. Let's have a good time watching the fights. Tell your friends, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you get the notifications. Be good to each other, man. Be good to your families. Stay safe during this time of COVID and everything else. And man, just please look after each other, man, and don't do anything fucking stupid. And please tell your friends, and let's all see each other on Sunday. Thank you so much, guys. Lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye.